And we'll start with Sodexo! Yay! So this is like the choose your own adventure that's like, great, you get a high five, great choice. You know, this is the way the story's going. So for Sodexo, the reason that they came to us is that they needed content for their career site, which is a common need. They also have a blog, a careers blog that's very successful. It has, I think, 500 people reading the blog. So very successful jobs blog, employee blog. And, but most importantly, even though you think of Sodexo as having a ton, they're a large company, you may think they have a ton of resources, they needed the content to last for years. So that's why using a story approach in your content is really great, because it's all about what the organization did for that person. And if they leave, it's not them in your t-shirt saying, I'm never gonna leave, and they're gone like 2 months later, you have to take it down. So they needed content that's going to stay for a long time. So this is just a quick slide of the last interview that we conducted was in 2015, and they're still creating content for their career site and for their blog at least, using the stories that we collected in 2015. So I think a question, if you're thinking about doing this yourself in your organization, it's like, okay, so what do you expect of the people that will be the hiring managers and even yourself? What's the workload like? So I've broken this up into what Sodexo did for this project. So they conducted focus groups of their employees to find out how they were really delivering on their brand promise. So we say we're this, would employees say the same thing? They also did reputation surveys. They selected the storytellers, so they selected the people that we were going to interview. And then they gave us feedback when we're showing them different drafts of content. They also had a ton of ideas. So that's something really important when you think about developing content, making sure that the people you're developing it for have a say in what that looks like. So they wanted a checklist. Someone would tell a story, and then, hey, this ties to work-life balance, and there's a big check, work-life balance that kind of hits you over the head, like this is what it's like to work here. Also, they wanted bloopers, and they wanted to inject some levity. So we had outtakes from the interview process that we included at the beginning. And they also were they really thought it was important to have 2-minute-long videos. So for them, content has to be great, but it has to be 2 minutes or less, and all of their videos are exactly 2 minutes. They also launched the polished content, and then we sent them all the transcripts with stories highlighted so they could create whatever content they wanted from employee stories. And that's really what's fueled their employee blog for the past 2 years. So this is what we did, and this slide's going to be the same for every client. This is what Stories Inc. does, and this is what you can do with your organization. So the people that are selected by the clients, we talk to them ahead of time just so that they're comfortable with us in the process. We don't overcoach because the idea is to get authentic, real stories. It's more like letting them know we're after your experience. Your experience is valuable. We actually come on site and we interview to get those stories. We transcribe from the entire interview day, and we look at all the different things that we're gathering. And then sometimes we pitch themes and content ideas. So it could be, hey, we know that we're developing a video series about your core values, but we got a lot of really great content around your tuition reimbursement program. So I think it's a good idea for us to develop some content around that, because that's what employees are getting really excited about, and that's what's affecting their lives. We also ask for Sodexo branding and style guides, to make sure that it's consistent with corporate branding. And then we present drafts until it's perfect. I think that's important too when you're doing this content in your organization, is to make sure that everyone's really excited about it.
Can I ask?
Oh, of course, please.
So how many people, what percentage of the population did you interview? And then what did you prep them with?
Great question.
And how'd you pick them?
Yep, so for Sodexo, oh, yeah?
Can you repeat it? 'Cause I'm not sure.
Sure, of course. So the question was, how did Sodexo pick the people? And then is there a second part? And how many?
And then how did you prep them?
And how did we prep them?
Interview about?
Great. So for Sodexo specifically, we interviewed 45 people across 6 different sites. And the 6 different sites were to show the variety of their environments. So we went to a university, we went to a Fortune 100 company, And we also went to a hospital. So they have Sodexo employees in all of those environments. Per day, we can interview between 8 and 10 people. The way that Sodexo picked their people, so we worked with their brand team, which is a team of 3, and they looked at client satisfaction scores. So they picked the sites that had the highest client satisfaction scores. And then they asked the person responsible for the site to pick the people. So one thing that was really surprising about this project is actually how much the interview process doubles as a rewards and recognition if you choose to use it that way. So we flew out to Nebraska and interviewed 10 employees at a medical center in Nebraska. And they told the site leader, "Thank you so much for picking me. I really felt like the company was valuing my contribution. I felt like a star for a day because we're coming with lights and everyone looks awesome, well lit." And so we had to show pictures. They actually got to use those as professional photos if they wanted to. So that was a really great outcome to us that project, picking the storytellers. The way that in this case, the way that we prepped each person is we left it up to the site leader. So we said here we could do several things. The first is that we could have a conference call where everyone calls in and then we can record it and distribute it. Or we could talk to each person individually, because if there's some people that are particularly nervous and just need more of a one-on-one. Or if people are too busy, we can meet with them 15 minutes before the interview. So we gave each site leader that option, depending on what was best for their culture. Most of them chose the call-in. Like, let's just have a call where everyone calls in and can ask questions on the call. Any other questions? And that's great. Actually, I'm thrilled if you interrupt me, so go ahead.
How important do you think it is for the video equipment to be at a professional level? Like, do you think that there's something to be said for kind of that, like, for lack of a better term, like guerrilla videotaping?
Yeah.
Or?
I think there's a time and a place for both.
Okay.
And I think both work. I'm biased because we use a professional, and I like a kind of an intentional, organic but intentional. But of course, for what works and like what candidates prefer, I think both work. Any other questions so far? No? Okay, so what we actually created, the output, like what's the content? We interviewed 45 people, what do we do with it? We created 10 videos, 5 of which were about each different functional area. So we have a 2-minute video about culinary, 2-minute video about facilities management. And then we also pitched the rest of them as cultural things that we heard. So we always, the best content you can create is around purpose. So we create a video about purpose too, the purpose that people find in their work. We developed an interactive quiz, which I'll show you in a second. We delivered hundreds of photos. So these are headshots and then of people actually doing their job too, that Sodexo used on all their sites and all their promotional materials. We created a career pathing tool, which is you get to kind of see what the path might be for someone in culinary based on a real person who took that path. They developed a Q&A on their site. So just the point is lots of content, so much content, years of content. And they're even switching career sites, and they're porting all that content to their new site too. So they're continuing to use it into the future too. So thanks to Bernadette, my team member Bernadette, for coming up with, saying, hey, we really used all parts of the buffalo with this project. So there was no story that we didn't use. And even the quiz, the cutting room floor, we could make it into a quiz. So that's really great when you think about value and content lasting a long time. Every story you can use in different ways. And this is an example. So this is an example of a quiz. You can see it's been taken 5,000 times. Actually, it might be I think it's 6,000 times. And this is what we did with some of the cutting room floor. It didn't quite fit in any place. Okay, so we developed the quiz, what Sodexo difference maker are you? This is Sodexo's idea, this is the question. And then when you hit start, you're asked just 2 questions. Does not matter. Yep, anyone will do. And then depending on what you pick, you're one of 9 people. So this is Victoria. She's a real person. This is really her story. And hopefully Victoria's story resonates with you because you answered the questions that map to her story. And then down below is a very fast video, 26 seconds. We don't need to play it because it's really quick, yeah. But that's an example of of the stories that we couldn't fit anywhere else. Just put it in a quiz, and then it actually was very well taken. Okay, cool. And then they ran Facebook ads with some of this content. So this is some of the successes that they had. So for $250, they had 107,000 impressions, 101 clicks on the job with this content. And then Women in Leadership too, same thing, spending $75 only, getting all these impressions. So impressions is one form of measurement. What's really important to think about when you're putting your content out there and measuring its performance is that the average job seeker, there's a statistic that says a job seeker goes between 2 and 18 places before they click apply. So someone can watch a video and then they can go apply, but that doesn't mean that the video is the reason they applied. They could have watched a video 6 months ago and then applied. So it's hard to measure the direct correlation. The idea is awareness. So the impressions is really great. How many people saw, how many people got exposure to the content. This is also, Sodexo thinks this is a success because they put this on their, this is our purpose video, and they put this on their Facebook page. And they really liked that 25 people commented, 33 people shared, and here's other people sharing their stories like, oh, I was working for Sodexo, it was a great experience. These are people on their Facebook page. Okay, so that was Sodexo. Any questions about that project at all? Yes?
You mentioned that it turns into years of content.
Mm-hmm.
Do you manage that, or is that something that you just pass over to them and they manage?
They manage it. And I know that it's not everybody's life. They do have a team of 3, for a very large. But yes, we give them the content, and then they manage the distribution of it and the measurement of it. Yes?
How did you come up with the idea for a quiz?
That's a great question. So the actual story is that at work, we said, okay, we have all this great content that doesn't fit in any of the things that we were already going to do for Sodexo. And we wanted to do something interactive and different in addition to videos, and they were open to that idea. So actually one of our interns came up with the idea, let's develop a quiz that's like BuzzFeed, kind of like what kind of pizza do you eat? That type, or what kind of food are you? So our intern came up with the idea of the quiz, and then we found a quiz that's open source, so it's basically free. It's this thing called Quizzer. And then pitched that to Sodexo, like here's what it might look like, and then they said, oh, it's a good idea, let's do it. So that's how we came up with the idea, is basically just brainstorming amongst our team. Here's these great stories. We want to put it in something that's interactive and fun, and that's how we came up with it. Yep.
How did Sodexo determine the ROI?
Oh, that's a really good question. I wish they were here to tell you that. I know that they view it positively. And I know that they measured some of the campaign parts. And I know that they are, so I'm not, let me think more deeply about that, maybe post it or ask Sodexo directly how they measured ROI, and then I can get that back to the group, because I know that they did. And we're continuing to work with them today, so we have a great relationship. I'm happy to ask. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so it seems like we were pretty evenly split, so I'm just gonna go to